Hey, co-reporters, I get to finally recap the reunion episode of the Ultimatum South Africa. Sorry it took quite a while to get here, but I'm happy to finally have arrived. So basically, all the couples come out with the exception of Lebo and Nola. Remember, they broke up earlier in the season, so I wasn't expecting to see them. And Ruth looked really, really nice at the reunion. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but I did not recognize her at first. It's just it's such a difference to go from like cornrows, black hair, this, that, the other, to like blonde like this. Normally, I don't love blonde hair on on my people, to be honest with you. I just don't like it, but I thought she rocked it pretty well. Like, it looked nice on her. Now I did find it very strange though that the host's husband wasn't there for the reunion taping. Like, the whole point of this is for these like couples to be guided by like an older, like established married couple. Like, they should always both be there. So that really felt off to me, but I digress. Now, although we mentioned Lebo and Nola not being there initially when the rest of the couples came out, they do actually wind up showing up a little bit later on, like 30 seconds later. And I'm like, please don't announce that y'all got back together. I see Nola's pin. It matches with Lebo's dress. Please do not tell me that this is what I think it is. Like, I would be so disappointed in her. Now, watching the flashbacks of Nola telling Lebo that he came on this experience at her behest in order to help calm her insecurities, show her that he's a one-woman man, like the level of evil that this man has exhibited, like, I cannot overstate it enough. Like, this man truly is unhinged, unwell. Like, there's some sort of personality disorder going there. This is not like innocent, oh, like he can't help flirting. Like, this is a bad person parading around as an innocent person, and it's sickening. Now, speaking of that, like, he never took proper accountability for his actions. Basically, all he said was that it was a lose-lose situation for him. Like, of course, he was going to sleep with Ruth because Ruth is so different from Lebo. Lebo's so different from Ruth. He wanted to explore something new. And it just feels like, wow, like, how embarrassing for you as a grown-ass man to have not a single shred of discipline in your life, that you would go and throw away a relationship this easily. Like, you should be embarrassed. And that goes for Ruth as well, by the way. But Ruth at least was very honest, very straightforward, and she was not like playing mind games with Isaac. So that's why I'm not as harsh on her. And at a certain point, Lebo asked Nola straight up, are you in love with Ruth? Did you fall in love with Ruth during this experience? And Nola couldn't even say no unequivocally. Like, you're here with your like new girl or something like that. It seems like, anyway. She's asking you if you fell in love with the girl that you were sleeping with behind her back, and you're like, oh. You should be trying to convince her that you are good and that was a lapse of judgment, that she is like, the center of your world or something. And he's just fumbling this question so hard. And then the host says, hold that thought. And he never actually gets to answer the question, which I found to be very disappointing. And this is where we find out actually that Lebo had actually gone ahead and given this clown a second chance, which I felt like was embarrassing for her. Like, come on, girl. At a certain point, I'm so sick of seeing women with no self-esteem on television. Like, you guys are really embarrassing us as like a species, as a sex, like, please find even a crumb of dignity on the ground and stop accepting like n'importe quoi from n'importe qui, stop accepting whatever from whoever. Like, this is so ridiculous to keep watching show after show after show. Like, I'm frustrated, to be honest with you. And how embarrassing must it have been for Lebo when she admits that she got back together with this guy who totally clowned her and humiliated her on TV. And then now you've got the whole cast like scoffing and laughing at the fact that you were stupid enough to get back together with this man. Like, how doubly, triply embarrassing is that, Now, Isaac at this point, he's seen enough, and he straight up says that he knows that Lebo's not happy in her relationship with Nola. And everyone kind of freezes, like, how do you know that? He's like, oh, we talk all the time. Everyone's like, what do you mean you talk all the time? Like, they were a missed connection on the show. Lebo asked to partner with him. He rejected her in order to get with Khanya. Then he later came back to apologize, repent, and say that, like, he thinks that things would have gone better if he got with Lebo. So it is kind of like scandalous that he is in such close communication with her since she got back together with Nola. Now, at this point, Lebo says, you know what, like, Isaac's right. It's true we speak often, and it's true that I have expressed that I'm not happy because I'm not happy. Then she turns to trifling Nola, dirty dick Nola, and just tells him, listen, I've tried to give you chance after chance. I've forgiven you so many times, but you just refuse to actually really, really, truly change. And you keep on doing the same things to hurt me and whatnot. So at this point, like, I don't see a future with us. I don't see myself marrying you, and much less date. I don't see myself dating you, much less marrying you, sort of a thing. And I was like, yes, I love that she faked the funk just to get him on this show and dump him and humiliate him the way that he humiliated her on the show. I was like giving her a standing ovation from where I was watching. Like, thank God. Like, I was scared that she was truly going to stick with this man. And then Aiden and Isaac started cheering too. They're like, yeah, because Aiden was like her husband on the show, right? And Isaac was like her missed connection. So they really have been rooting for her to escape the evil narcissistic clutches of Nola. And so I thought that was beautiful. So at this point, Nola goes off like crying with no tears about how could she do this to me. And then Genesis, after a while, goes over. No one else wanted to. So Genesis is like, all right, I'll go over. And so he explains to Nola that like Lebo, like, has been communicating the same thing with him for a very long time. But sometimes men can be so like tone deaf, ignorant to like what women are saying, that they have to feel pain in order to have their eyes opened. And I was like, wow, like that is such a wonderful way to put it, Genesis, because unfortunately it is so true. Like, how many times, ladies, have you been in a relationship with a man and you keep on telling him that you want XYZ to change, you're not happy, you need this to change, you need this to change, and then they never actually change, or they'll do it temporarily, then they'll go back to their old BS, and then you finally check up the deuces. Now they're crying, snot nose and everything, red eyed, like like they're blindsided. Meanwhile, you've been warning them about this for months, if not years, you know? So I really like that Genesis picked up on that and that he communicated that not only to Nola, but to the audience as well. Like, listen, when women are telling you they're not happy and they want something to change. And I just have to let y'all know, I did not feel bad for Nola at all when he was quote unquote crying, because it was all fun and games when he was cheating on Lebo with Ruth, boning her multiple times, talking about, oh, like y'all, you knew, Ruth, when we partnered up, that it means that we're kissing goodbye to our relationship, right? Like, they showed that in the replay. And like here on the reunion stage, like talk about, oh, I admire Ruth, I can't answer if I'm in love with her or not. It was all fun and games when you were doing that to humiliate your girl. But now that she dumps you, you're the victim. F you and F your tears, honestly. Like, he is so fake. I really cannot stand him. And again, the tears did not actually even exist. He's such a faker. He's such a manipulator. And at this point, the host asks Lebo to react to Nola's, you know, quote unquote crying. And then Lebo says, listen, like, he did this throughout the show. He would cry, then turn around and do really terrible things behind my back. This is an act. This is his manipulation. And I was like, yes, she truly has learned her lesson. She truly is done with this demon. And I am so happy for her. Now, you know who else was happy for her was Aiden, actually. He goes, listen, I am really, really thrilled that Lebo has seen the light and that like she's letting this relationship go. And at this point, Lebo takes the opportunity to apologize to Aiden because according to her time/practice marriage with Aiden was mainly filled with her just like, you know, pining over Nola. Like, she didn't really take the time to make it about herself and Aiden and like, you know, form some kind of a relationship with him. And he accepts he accepts her apology and all is well over there. Like, Aiden and Courtney were very irrelevant, to be honest with you guys, on the Ultimatum South Africa, but like they were still a very nice couple, like, you know, individually. Like, he was really, really good. He was always like alikut. He was always a listening ear to people, a shoulder to cry on. And Courtney was always just like a calming presence in her situation with Genesis and the other girls as well. So I do like them, although I didn't find them to be very like impactful on the show. And then Isaac talks a little bit more about like how crappy of a partner Nola is. At which point Nola asks Isaac if Lebo's the new girl that he's talking about dating long distance. And then they all laugh it off and say, no, that's not the case. By the way, yeah, Isaac and Ruth are both in new relationships and they're both in long distance relationships. Here's my thing. I feel like that points to a level of emotional unavailability in both of them. Like, there's something in them that is chasing these kinds of like, you know, just out of arm's reach relationships, you know, and I think that that's something they need to look into. Next up, we get to explore how things are going between Tabby and Genesis, and we notice that Tabby's not wearing a ring on that finger, her engagement ring, and then she announces that they have put their engagement on pause in order to work on their relationship a bit more, which I kind of feel like you can do this while still being engaged. Like, you always have to work on your relationship anyway. So like, why pause your engagement after like 7 years together? Just because there's some things you need to work on, when like overall, the big picture is that you love each other, you're happy, and you want to be married, Just my 2 cents. And Genesis also adds that, listen, like, you're not engaged to an African woman until you have presented your dowry and stuff like that. And so that made me laugh. It reminds me of my mom. She's always like this, like, oh, don't get married without like a dowry or whatever. I'm like, listen, girl, maybe that worked for you, but I'm a Canadian girl. Like, now like here in France, especially, like we're not playing these games here. Like, I think it's a nice like part of like tradition and stuff like that. That reminds me of my mom. She's always like, no, do not get married without the dowry, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, like, I don't see it for myself. Like, I don't like to think in these terms. I don't think I want dowry, to be honest with you. No, I don't think. I know for sure, certain I do not. But yeah, so that just made me laugh. I was like, oh, look, good for you, Genesis. He's like trying to get his coin up so he could like do it properly within the constraints of their culture. And like, he wants to speak to her family formally about it as well. So here, even though they called off their engagement, they do seem very happy. So I'm happy for them. Then he says that it was upsetting to see Tabby connect with Lindel. And he doesn't blame it on Tabby. He doesn't blame it on Lindel either. He says, listen, this is a result of my own shortcomings. And this just showed me that like, I really was not listening to Tabby for a long time. And that's why she felt so comfortable connected with somebody else. And, I really loved his way of thinking. It's basically what he said to Nola, outside earlier, which is like, yeah, she had been complaining about these things for a little while. And I had just been ignoring them, and they built up to this like point. And so I needed to work on those things to bring her back to like a happy place. And I'm like, he's a good man. Genesis is a good man. He is like the antithesis of Nola. He's someone who listens to you and wants to do better and wants to make you happy. Nola is someone who wants to terrorize you, make you cry, and make you feel terribly about yourself. And so I'm just so happy to see someone like Genesis. I'm so happy to see someone like Lindel on this show, like in the face of so many like demonic men like Nola. Cesa then thanks Tabby for bringing out the great new sides to Lindel that he has been exhibiting since this experiment, which I thought was a very sweet moment considering the jealousy and the confrontation that the two of them had on the show. Apparently, Cesa and Lindel are still working towards marriage. They're actually both wearing engagement rings. So when I saw Lindel and I saw Aiden wearing rings, I was like, oh, like they actually got married after the show. But no, the men are wearing their own engagement rings. And I thought that's nice. I really do like, I hope that comes like more towards like Europe and North America, that like men wear engagement rings as well. Like, yeah, he's off the market, bitches. Sucker. Like, why not? Why not? Why should it only be the woman, right? So yeah, like they're talking about how they're like, they don't have a date set yet or anything like that. But like the parents and the families have been talking about it. They submitted some kind of letter somewhere. If you're South African, please let me know what that means, because I am very curious about that. And he also says that the wedding is going to happen before the end of the year, which I think is wonderful. That's going to give them at least 1 year together before getting married. Because remember, when they did this show, like they were 6 months into dating, which is like, it's too soon to be getting, married. So like, I feel like a year at least is pretty good. Then we get into the beef between Cesa and Khanya. And like, we get to see like the montage of Khanya quite literally berating and like, in my opinion, abusing Cesa. And Khanya right off the bat apologizes for body shaming her, which I thought was really lovely. I was like, yeah, good for you, girl. Like, I'm happy that you're showing at least some level of growth and some level of understanding that what you did and what you said was absolutely not okay. Like, I have to repeat this every time. Cesa is so gorgeous. She's so beautiful. To me, she's the most beautiful girl there. So, size, whatever. Who cares? Like, at the end of the day, she's a beautiful girl inside and out. And sorry, Khanya, that you cannot say the same. You are a very, very mean, very, very cold woman, and, I really hope that you get to warm your heart one day, because this is just not it. Now, Lindel, by the way, I gotta say, did anybody notice that he was giving Cesa some kind of weird looks? Like, she'd be answering questions and then he'd be there like this. I just kept seeing a bunch of like up and downs like this. Like, she'll answer something and then he'll be like this. But I'm like, I don't know. Like, I kind of got like vibes there. I was like, is everything okay? Like, they seem happy, especially her, but she always seems happy, even when she's being attacked and like, berated. So I don't know, but like, he was giving some odd looks, in my opinion. Anyway, jobless Aiden, he finally found gainful employment. So congratulations to him on that. It looks like things are full steam ahead for he and Courtney, although like they're not yet planning their wedding. Like, none of these engaged couples are planning their wedding at all. But like, they're still engaged and like he's now working, which I think is great. They want to save money, and like, you know, he seems like someone who really wants to not waste money. Like he doesn't want to be wasteful. So I don't see them having a huge wedding or anything like that, which I think is great. Like, listen, y'all, save your money, do something cute, do something small, go to the courthouse and do a little something afterwards, like in your backyard, maybe even, like, I don't know, like it doesn't have to be super duper expensive, you know? Courtney and Aiden, by the way, they got so, did you see how uncomfortable they were when like the host invited herself to their wedding? The host is like, and I look forward to getting an invitation to your wedding. And then like Courtney, she just starts like rubbing her neck, and then Aiden sits up, like, it's like, girl, like, I don't like when people do that. They invite themselves to your like hypothetical wedding. Like, it's so weird. I'm not a fan. Khanya, by the way, like, as they're showing like her outbursts and stuff like that towards her own boyfriend, Nyakateko, like, she doesn't apologize. And I was like, girl, like, you were pouring wine on this man and kicking him out of bed and everything. And like, instead of her apologizing, her man apologizes on her behalf and claims that he's never seen her like that. Like, it was just like a very like, you know, strenuous kind of like circumstance. She's not at all like that, I swear to you guys. Meanwhile, your mom hates her, so she's a very evil, mean woman. Like, I'm sure that does not come from like out of nowhere. You know what I mean? I think that this man is just a glutton for punishment. He knows she's toxic, but he seems to thrive off of that on his own. Like, there seems to be some personal issues going on there that need to be addressed, in my opinion. Then he also, on top of apologizing on her behalf, he apologizes to her for not respecting her boundaries. Like, what are her boundaries? You not being able to sleep in bed? Like, what? You, sir, you really need to get some things worked out, unfortunately. It seems like you are a victim of Stockholm Syndrome. Then, by the way, at this point, Khanya starts crying tears of joy and says that she's happy because sometimes in relationships she feels like taken for granted. And then they announce that they're back together, and I'm like, oh God. And then they say that they're in therapy. I'm like, all right, well, let's hope it works. Not every time, you know, not everybody in therapy is actually looking to grow and change. They're looking to find a way to weaponize things against you, right? So I don't know. And then here's where things get kind of like wild to me. Nyakateko then announces that they had a baby, and it's a son. He's 3 months old. And I'm like, okay, so that's what it is. Because when I was looking at Kanye, I was like, is she pregnant? Like, are they going to make a pregnancy announcement? Which is something we saw on the last season of the American version. That really, really pretty girl. I forgot her name, but she announced that she was pregnant. I was like shocked by this. Ruth looked disgusted. But I gotta say, I'm sad and I'm scared for the baby. Like, after watching Kanye's toxicity and her abuse on the show, I just can't imagine growing up with such an explosive parent. Like, I'm really lucky that I grew up with very calm parents. Like, there's never any fights in my home. So like, just the idea of a parent like this is just really, really scary. Like, good luck to that baby. Good luck to Nyakateko. Good luck to Khanya. Like, I really, really hope that they get it together for this baby's sake. Like, the behavior we saw on the show was very, very alarming. So I can't just go, oh, like, I'm happy the baby's gonna fix it. No, I'm like, I'm worried for this baby because this woman is toxic. This woman is violent. This woman is vicious, you know, and that man is spineless. That man is an enabler. So good luck. God bless. Anyway, you guys, that does it. A recap of the Ultimatum South Africa's reunion. I'm so happy it was covered in one simple episode. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Bye.